Today's learning goal will be I will be able to use proportions to convert units between different measurement systems. The math standard we'll be covering today is MAFS 0.6, .RP, 0.1, 0.3. Today we're going to continue our discussion on measurement systems. As you recall, we have two primary measurement systems. We have the customary measurement system, which is where we use feet, inches, yards, miles, so on and so forth. And then we have the metric system, which uses meters, grams, liters. Now today we're going to talk about how to convert between those two systems. So if I want to find out how many miles are in a kilometer, things like that, that's what we're going to talk about today. On this page I have a conversion chart that you can use for your assignment. This will also appear in your notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's look at how many meters there are in 5 feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the ratio of feet to meters because the problem is asking me how many feet there are, or how many meters there are in 5 feet. So if I go back to my chart, I'll see that the ratio of feet to meters is 1 to 0.305. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a proportion. 1 to 0.305 equals 5 to x. X is our unknown. So 1 foot equals 0.305 meters. So 5 feet must equal, let's cross multiply. When we do that, we find out that 1x equals 1.525. And if we round that to the nearest tenth, we can say 1.5. So in this problem, we found out that in 5 feet, there are 1.5 meters. Now let's talk about using conversion factors. A conversion factor is a multiplier used to convert between units. Now, in conversion factor, we see the word factor, and factor is a number that we multiply. Now in the definition, you see the word multiplier. So again, we must be multiplying. So this conversion factor is going to be something we multiply to help us convert between two different units. Let's look at converting between a mile and a kilometer. Now 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. As a ratio, I could write this one of two ways. I could say 1 to 1.61 if I'm going between miles and kilometers. Or I could say 1.61 to 1 if I'm going from kilometers to miles. So let's look at how many kilometers there are in 3 miles. Which ratio would I use to find out how many kilometers there are in 3 miles? I'm trying to find kilometers to miles. Well, I'm going to use the second one because that one is written kilometers to miles. And in my question, it says, how many kilometers in 3 miles? So we're going to start off with that ratio, 1.61 kilometers to 1 mile. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to take that ratio and I'm going to multiply it by 3 miles because I'm trying to find out how many kilometers there are in 3 miles. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to cross out the miles. I'm going to keep the numbers, but I'm going to cross out the miles because they cancel each other out. So if I do that, I'm going to be left with a multiplication sentence of 1.61 times 3. So if I multiply 1.61 times 3, that's going to give me 4.83. So in 3 miles, there are 4.83 kilometers. So my conversion factor for this problem, going from kilometers to miles, is 1.61. So I will take the number of miles that I have, and I'll multiply it by 1.61, and that will tell me how many kilometers there are in that many miles. Let's look at another one. Okay, we're going to use the same 1 mile to 1.61 kilometers. There's my two ratios like we had on the previous slide. Except this time, I want to know how many miles there are in 3 kilometers. So I'm going to look at my two ratios and try to figure out which one I'm going to use for this. Okay, I'm trying to find miles to kilometers. So I'm looking for miles to kilometers. I want to find the ratio that is set up as miles to kilometers. Well, that's going to be the first one, 1 mile to 1.61 kilometers. So let me go ahead and take that ratio, and I'm going to multiply that by 3 kilometers. Next, what I have to do is I have to cross out or cancel out my kilometer labels. I'm going to keep the numbers. I'm just going to cross out kilometers on the top and the bottom. They cancel each other out. So if I do that, I'm left with, on the top, 1 mile times 3, and on the bottom, I'm left with 1.61. So 3 over 1.61 is the same thing as 3 divided by 1.61, which equals 1.86. So in 3 kilometers, there are 1.86 miles. So for this problem, our conversion factor is 1 over 1.61. Now, if you notice, on this example, we divided because we were going from